And we're going to read a little bit. Let's go to Genesis 42. Now I come from a different school. I come from the old school of preaching. The preacher, you got to help the preacher preach. Y'all help me preach and I'll be out the way. You don't have to say a silent amen. If you feel an amen in your spirit, y'all help me. Hallelujah. When your team is playing, they don't have, the only people they have on the beginning, on the sidelines is the loud people. The quiet folks is the one that sit up front. Amen. You don't want the team to be sacked on the 10-yard line. That's right. Hallelujah. So we're going to cheer on, amen, the word of the Lord. Genesis 42. And it says now in verse 1, now we're going back a little bit, and we've been talking the past, I guess, 3 weeks concerning the account of Joseph. And when we started off, we found out that through jealousy, Joseph's brothers were jealous of his ability and jealous of his gift. And they threw him in a pit and left him to die. But then instead of leaving him to die, they were so greedy that they wanted to see how much money they could get off of him, that they sold him into slavery. And we said in the first week that even though when Joseph was in the pit, that the people of Egypt came to lift him out of the pit. And I made my first point 3 weeks ago is that whoever comes to help you, you better let them help you. Even though they were slave owners, Joseph was getting ready to die, and it was a hand coming to reach him from the pit that he was in. Amen. You better tell somebody, stop refusing help. Stop refusing help. If you're really desperate enough, some of y'all will take help from anybody. Y'all ain't saying amen too loud to that. The person you can't stand, if they offer you $20 and you really need it, you'll take it from that person. You will take help from whoever when you're in a desperate situation, whoever is willing to help you.
All right.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Thank you, Jesus.
I don't know if anybody's ever been drowning or almost drowning before, but if you're almost drowning or drowned, when somebody reach their hand down, I don't like you. Move your hand out the way. Get somebody, call somebody else over there. When you're in trouble, whoever's hand gets there first.
All right.
And we try to be prideful right now, but we know we just like that now. Whoever's trouble, you call the utility company, cuss them out, but then you got to call them back because you need them. Call back, disguise your voice. Y'all ain't never did that. I'm sorry. But you got to call back because the very one that you talked about is the very one that you need.
All right. Amen.
That's the truth.
Amen.
So the Egyptians pulled him out of the pit. And we find out they pulled him out of the pit and they sold him to a slave master, to Potiphar. But then Joseph gained the favor of Potiphar. And Potiphar trusted him so much that he put him in charge of everything that was there. Then we found out that Potiphar's wife became jealous of Joseph because somebody had her man's attention. Oh, you ain't saying nothing to me. Somebody had the attention that she used to have. So she went and she accused Joseph. And Joseph was thrown in jail. But he wasn't just thrown in any kind of jail. He was thrown in the king's jail. Can I break it down for you? If you go on and do something bad now, some folks might go upstate to Rahway, but I'm talking about that country club one that Martha Stewart went to with the little low fences around where everybody walk around wearing sweatsuits.
That's right. Amen.
All right. Amen.
He was thrown in the jail of favor. And I hear God, even in his captivity, he still had favor. And I hear God right now. Let me keep it down. I'm sorry. And I hear God right now. Even as bad as it seems now, tell somebody it could be worse. It could be worse. Even in what you're going through right now, God's favor is still on your situation. It could be a whole lot worse right now. If God would have took his favor off of you as bad as you think it is now.
Jesus.
Hallelujah. Glory to God.
But God kept his favor.
Yes, hallelujah.
On Joseph, and he went into the prison. And while he was in the prison, God connected him with the right people. My next point is sometimes God will connect you with the right people no matter where you are when you have the favor of God. He was connected with the chef and the butler, and he told them his dreams. And the Bible declares that they went out and they forgot about him. But then all of a sudden they remembered him and they brought him to the Pharaoh of Egypt. The favor of God was there. The Pharaoh was Egypt, and Joseph was able to interpret the Pharaoh's dreams.
Jesus.
And the Pharaoh now trusted Joseph and said, none of my soothsayers, none of my magicians, none of the people around me could do as you do. I trust you so much. I am putting the entire nation in your hands. No one's word shall go above yours but mine. As a matter of fact, I'm giving you my ring, so when they see you coming, they know you are walking in my authority.
Jesus.
The Egyptians had to pull him out of the pit because guess what? They were not just pulling him out into slavery, but they were pulling him into royalty. I hear God right now.
Yes, hallelujah.
He was in a pit ready to die.
Amen.
Jesus.
So now here we are in Genesis 42 and 1. It says, now Jacob back home, Joseph's father, saw that there was no more corn. There was no more food left in Egypt. And Jacob said to his sons, why are you staring and looking at one another?
Jesus.
You're sitting up there frowning at each other. We have no corn, verse 2. And behold, I heard there is corn in Egypt. And it's not just African American people, but we know when we find out that there is something for free, y'all ain't saying nothing to me. You will call your cousin, you will call your friend, you will call everybody you can go to get down there to find out there is giving out some stuff.
All right, amen.
If you found out a case of water was 99 cents at ShopRite, but you had to be there by 10:30, all of y'all would sneak out of here right now while I'm talking to get your way down to ShopRite and get something because it's either free or a good price.
Amen.
So we heard that there was some corn in Egypt. If there ain't no food where you are now, you go where there is food.
Amen.
If you don't have, you go to somebody that has.
Amen.
If it's Memorial Day and you don't have no food in your house and you remember that cookout they invited you to, you go, uh-oh, Thomas the only one that said, I guess nobody else did that. You go where there is.
Amen.
So the Bible declares that they went, he said, behold, I heard there's corn in Egypt. Go down there and get by some for us that we may live and not die. Because I don't know if we realize, but at this time, there is now a famine in all of the land, not just Egypt, but in the surrounding lands. There was a famine and people had nothing. Well, why did Egypt have corn when there's famine? That doesn't seem to make sense. Well, what we found out last week is that because God revealed to Joseph what happened, the Bible declares that God told Joseph for 7 years to get ready for the famine that is coming. So they took and they got ready. 7 years passed and the famine came, but the people in Egypt now were in a position to not only have enough for themselves, but enough to sell somebody else.
All right. Amen.
But Benjamin, Joseph's brother Jacob, sent not his brother, for he said, but Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob didn't send him. He said, I don't want mischief to fall upon him. It says that the sons of Israel, they came to buy corn from among those that came because the famine in the land was great. They now find Joseph was governor over the land and that he sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and they bowed themselves before him with their faces to the earth. The very one that they dropped into the pit, they were now bowing and throwing themselves before in desperation.
Yes, sir.
Jesus. Hallelujah.
Joseph saw his brother and knew them, but made himself strange to them. They didn't even recognize. He spoke roughly to them, and he said to them, why come ye? And they said, we come from Canaan to buy food. Verse 8 says, Joseph knew his brothers, but they knew him not. Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed, and he said to them, you are spies to see the nakedness of the land and come. So now here was Joseph here standing before his brothers.
Yes, yes.
Standing before the very ones that sold him for a couple of dollars. In other words, those couple of dollars ran out, and now they were without, and they had no idea that they were now in front of the very one. They were in front of the very one that they sold. And now let's turn turn a little bit. Let's go down to verse 25. They were on their way out, and Joseph commanded them to fill their sacks with corn and to restore every man's money back with his sack. In other words, can I just break it down to you? Darn it, if you go down the ShopRite and you stand in the self-checkout line. I don't know if you ever been in the self-checkout line, but if you go to put something on the side by mistake, it stops and you got to call somebody over with a key to come and help you because they want to make sure that you're not stealing anything. But if you went down at the self-checkout line and you put all your stuff in the bag and then you took the only 20 you had and put it inside the thing to pay. But on your way out, one of the cashiers looked up to you, said, "Hi, how you doing?" while you were distracted. Another one put the 20 back in your pocket and stole the receipt out of your hand. When you get into the door, the security stops you at the door and said that this lady is coming in here trying to steal food. "No, I'm not. Where's the receipt?" "Oops, I can't find it." "Where's the money?" "Oh, my money is still right here." What do it look like to you?
All right. All right.
So now his brothers, he put the corn back and their money back, but they went on their way. And verse 28 said that his brothers looked and said, "My money's been restored in my sack, even though I still have the food," and their heart failed them. They were afraid, because I want you to understand, not just Joseph, but the reputation of Egypt preceded even Joseph. The Egyptians were somebody that you did not play with. The Egyptians were the people in authority in that land. The Pharaoh, the people of Egypt, you didn't play with them. You could be executed. You could be jailed. All the people in your family would be killed if you messed with the people of Egypt. And they were looking back and said, "Lord, did we forget to pay?"
My Lord. Jesus.
It wasn't like they could just walk back in there and say, "Oh, I forgot to pay. Here's the money now." They were afraid. Their heart failed them, and they were afraid, saying one to another, "Why is it that God has done this to us?" And they came to Jacob their father in the land of Canaan, verse 29, and told him everything that happened. And they said, the Lord of the land spoke roughly to us and took us to be spies of the country. And we told them, we are not true men, we are not spies. And they told him that we have 12 brothers, sons of our father, and one is not here. I could sure Jacob is saying, well, first of all, you're giving way too much information. Nobody asked you all of that business and how many was there and who wasn't there. But they went on and said that one is not, and the youngest is the day with our father in the land of Canaan. And they told him everything that happens. But then verse 34, it says, and the man said to them, they're telling Jacob now, "Bring me the youngest one, then I'll know that you're not spies and are true men, and I will deliver your brother, and you shall be okay in the land." Jacob their father said to them, "You have bereaved of my children. Joseph is not," verse 36. "Simeon is not, and you will now take Benjamin away. All of these things against me." Reuben spake and said to his father, "You can kill 2 of my sons if I don't bring him back. Deliver him to my hand, and I will bring him back again." But Jacob now said, "Wait a minute. I trusted you to go out with Joseph, and you came back and brought me his bloody coat. I told you to go down to the land of Egypt and to get some food. You came back with some food and money. You must have lost your mind.
Hallelujah.
Jesus.
Thank you, God.
If you think I'm trusting you again with my youngest son,
Yes, yes.
my son will not go back to you. For his brother is dead, and if he's left alone, mischief is going to come his way, and you will kill me with gray hairs and sorrows in the grave. With Genesis 43, I got to close in a couple of minutes. But it says now the famine was getting worse. And they had some sacks full of corn and food. But guess what? That food eventually ran out. There comes a point in time that if you don't have the source of a blessing, the blessing that you have eventually runs out.
Amen.
They ate up the food and the corn that they brought to Egypt. And their father said to them, please, he was hungry, please go back and just buy us just a little bit more food. But Judah reminded him that the man is probably still there, verse 3, and said to us that he does not want us to come back except our brother comes back too. He says, if we are not the crazy ones, we're not going back down there without the brother. If you want us to go down there, either send him or we're not going.
Well,
All right. Amen.
But if not, we will send him and go down. For the man said to us, bring your brother, except he's with you. Verse 6, and Israel said, why are you treating me so much? And why I'm still upset at you that you told that man that you had a brother. They said the man asked straightly of us and asked us of our kindred like he knew us and asked us about our father and everything that was going on. Verse 8, and Judah said to Israel, send the young man with me and I will arise and go that we may live and not die, both of us and the little ones. I will, verse 9, be responsible of him and of my hand shall require him. And if you bring him to me, I'm going to make sure I take the blame forever. For except we had lingered, surely we're going to go back this time. Verse 11, Israel said to them, well, if it must be so, go and do this, but take the best fruit in your lands. Take the best stuff that you have. Make sure you're looking good when you go down there and in your vessels and carry that man a present. Get him a little balm and a little honey, spice and myrrhs and nuts. Now, we may not do that now, but it might be when you're going down there. Don't go down there empty-handed. If it costs $20, bring another $20 tip with you. Go get him a gift and give him something nice. Take double the money, verse 12, in your hand, and the money that he thought that you stole, bring it back.
yes.
Jesus.
Preach it.
He says, I want it to look kind of good. You got to be at the mercy
Yes.
Jesus.
of this man.
Jesus.
He said, take your brother also, arise and go to this man. He prayed and said, God, please give mercy before the man, that he may send you away and the other brother and Benjamin, and I be bereaved of my children. I am bereaved. What I didn't mention to you before is that he told them rather to bring back Benjamin, but he left Simeon there. While they were there eating of the food at home, Simeon was still in Egypt. They didn't know what was going on. They assumed that when they left that Simeon was dead.
Our Lord.
It would make sense. You got all the money here. It looks like you stole something and left. They figured that they killed the other brother while he was there.
Yes.
And Joseph saw the men of Benjamin with him, and he said, and he saw the men and Benjamin with them from a distance, verse 16. And he said, bring these men home and slay them and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. The men did as Joseph said, and they brought the men into Joseph's house. And now the men were afraid because they didn't know what was going on. As soon as we got here, somebody came to meet us and to bring us to Joseph's house. He must have had a mark or a wanted poster up for us, looking for us as soon as we got into the land. They were now afraid and they were now full of trouble. They went on to try to explain to Joseph everything that happened and how they are so sorry that it happened. How they did not mean to take the sack of food and all, they did not mean for everything to happen. But Genesis 43 and 30, as I get ready to close, said that Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brothers, and he could no longer control himself, and he went into his private chamber and he began to weep. The emotion now filled him, for now he saw those who he loved. He saw them once again. But then he came back and washed his face out and refrained himself, and he sat there, and they went forth and they began to eat and they began to talk one another. And he told them again in chapter 44, when they were getting ready to leave, fill the men's stack with food again, as much as they can carry, and put the money back in the stack. Now, I'm sure the brothers are saying now, oh Lord, they have no idea what's going on. But not only just put it back in the stack, but take the silver cup off of my table and put it into their stack. So not only are you thieves, but you went into the governor's house, you went from his table and took his cup. What in the world does it look like to them now? They went on their way. The Bible declares that Joseph's men rather overtook them in verse 6, 44 and 6. And he said to them these words, and they said unto him, God forbid his servants should do according this thing, the money we found in our sacks' mouths, and we brought it out the land of Canaan. And why would we with this steal from your table? He said, with whomever of your servants be found, let him die, and also I will be your slave. In other words, it wasn't me. It must have been one of my servants, because we're not crazy enough to do something like this. They took every man's sack down, and they searched it and went to the ground, and they found the cup was in Benjamin's sack. Now they just said, whoever you find the sack with, that person has to stay. They just went to get Benjamin, and they told their father, I'm bringing Benjamin back. Now the cup was in Benjamin's sack. That meant Benjamin had to stay. They didn't know what they were going to do now. If they went back home and gave their father the news that they went twice, and now Benjamin and Simeon was gone, they'd really be in trouble. But if they stayed there, they didn't know what was going to happen. The Bible declares that they rent their clothes, and they began to weep. If I can make a very contrast here, the ones that are tearing their clothes now are the very ones that took the torn coat of Joseph and brought it back to Jacob as Jacob began to grieve. Now these very ones are in a grieving state themselves. I've stopped by to tell you that what goes around, I hear God now, comes around again. The Bible declares, be not deceived, God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, so shall he reap. Now these very ones that had Jacob in mourning were in mourning themselves. These very ones that tore Joseph's coat, their clothes were rent themselves, and they were in mourning. The Bible says they rent their clothes and laid it every man his ass and returned to the city. And Judah and his brethren came to Joseph's house because he was there, and they fell down again on the ground. Jesus. Joseph now asked them, what is this that you have done, that I was such a man that was kind to you? Why are you not such a man? I was certainly divine. Judah said, verse 16, what shall we say, Lord? What shall we speak? How can we clear ourselves? God must be angry with one of our servants. We are now your servants, both we and also the one whom the cut is found. Joseph said, God forbid that I should do so, but the man in the cup is found, he shall be my servant. He said, now for the rest of you, go back to your father. I can hear them say now, no, leave me here now. Please don't send me back. No, you don't understand what's going on. Our father made it very clear that we're not to come back without the brothers. And they went over to recount to Joseph everything that went on. But then that's what brings us now to my close. And when we started in Genesis 45, Joseph could not retain himself anymore. And he told the men, he said he wept aloud, and Joseph said, I am Joseph. In other words, I am the very one that you threw into the pit. I am Joseph. I am the very one that you counted out. I am Joseph. I am the very one that you left for dead. And I can hear God now talking to some of us right now. We need to let the devil know and say your name. Say, I am. You ain't saying no. Say, I am. And say your name. I am. talents, the very one that they counted out. I am the very one that they left in the pit, the very one that they left for dead. I am the same one. I'm the one that the years passed and they counted me out, thought I was dead, but I'm the same one. Just like Jesus said, in 3 days I will rise again. When you go down, tell somebody, I'm getting back up. I'm not staying in the same place. The last time you saw me, I was in the pit, but the next time you saw me, now I was wearing the king's garment. The last time you saw me, I was laying down helpless and couldn't even move, but now the next time you see me, I am in a place of authority. God have restored me. God have lifted me back up. God has lifted me back up. They counted Joseph out, considered him dead, but God counted him back in.
Hallelujah. Yes, Father.
They counted him out so much that they forgot about. Oh, I hear God right now.
Go ahead, Pastor.
I hear the Lord say, you've been counted out so much. Some of your enemies forgot what you were capable of. I hear, oh, I said, they counted Joseph out. They didn't even recognize him when they saw him because he was out of their memory. They counted you out so much. They forgot that you were favored by God. They forgot you were still anointed. They counted you out so much. They didn't even cross their mind that it could be possible
Jesus.
for you to be where you are right now. They counted him out, and their memory would not even allow them to remember
My Lord.
who he was.
Amen.
I was counted out. Tell somebody I was counted out.
I was counted
But
out.
God counted me back.
God.
Let us all stand. We got to hold in the presence of the Lord. God counted me. He counted me back.
Hallelujah, Jesus.
And
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. God. Amen. Thank you, Lord.
so when you fall, you don't have to worry about it. Because God is only counting you back in. Lord have mercy. When the Egyptians came to get him into slavery, he didn't have to worry about it. God was just in the process of counting him back in. He went into Potiphar's house and he could have stayed there. God was just in the process of counting him back in. He went into the prison. God was just in the process of counting him back.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
All right.
They forgot who he was, but God didn't forget.
Hallelujah, Jesus.
From the time he was born, God anointed him and said that he is a dreamer.
Yes.
And I'm so glad that they may forget who you are.
Yes.
They may forget what you're capable of. But God never forgets who you are. Clap your hands one more time.
Hallelujah.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, God. Clap your hands and give the Lord